this regular session of the Wetzel County School Board of Education to order. We're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance led by the Arrow of Light Group from Scout Troop number 128, and it will be followed by a moment of silence. Anyone not wanting to participate may stay seated. You start us out, okay? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And let it be noted that Mrs. Nice was not able to be here tonight. First thing that we'll go under is recognition, Wetzel County Public Libraries, 100, New Martinsville, Hayden City, and Pine Grove.
All right. Do we have anybody here from any of the libraries? That's going to make this easy. I will just get those mailed to them, but thankful for the excess levy in this county that's been passed, and part of our excess levy that the voters passed was it last year, Joe Beth?
Yes.
It's all running together with me. But part of the excess levy is we give $10,000 each to the local libraries. So there's four checks here for each of the local libraries, and we're thankful for what they do for our school system, being a part of educating our children.
Next on the agenda is a presentation from Long Drain School and 100 High School.
All right, we'll watch the video first, then if you guys have questions, I'll just talk a little bit about what we did for our PBIS event. We'll watch the video first. And this was done by Vincent Sigley, he's here, and Zach Hostetler. He couldn't make it, he had to work tonight, but kudos to both those guys, and this is really, really something neat. So that was just a video that they made that showed kind of what we took part in. A lot of you were there, and it was a wonderful day. We had an outdoor, we just called it Outdoor Day, and Miss Sigley and Mr. Rush, they were big components of helping me get this organized, along with all the teachers at HHS and Long Drain, along with all the students at the high school. So how this became to be, I was having a party, a birthday party for my nephew at my house, and there was a little guy that come out, and you could just see he hadn't been in the outdoors much, and he came up to me after the whole event, and he said he'd never caught a fish, he'd never been on an ATV, and he was from Marshall County, and that really got me thinking, we normally take for granted around here for like the kids, the experiences they get to have, so I wanted to put something on. I had a lot of contacts that I could get in touch with. And we had the Snakes of West Virginia. Those pictures have been going around. That presentation by Roy Moose was absolutely wonderful. We had the individuals from Hannibal over here that have the Outdoor Recreation Center. They came out and they did BB gun shooting and gun safety. We had antlers and furs. We had Smokey. He did scents and lures. Robbie Gilbert did trapping. We had fishing for the kids, the high school kids. Painted faces, they did art projects, we had ATV rides, and then we had the Birds of Prey from Bunner's Ridge come out, and the whole day was super educational. All the kids, I think they learned something. And I thought this was pretty amazing. As a first-year principal, we had 186 out of 187 permission slips turned in. And the only one we didn't, the parent called in that morning and was like, my kid just forgot it, I want them to go. So we had full participation. Out of the 263 kids, pre-K through 12, we had over 250 at the Sportsman's Club that day. And just, and another reason I thought this was really big, one of our countywide goals is to family and community involvement, and I think we knocked it out of the park with this one. We had all kinds of community members there, the parents were there helping out, and all the kids had a great time. And so we just wanted to highlight what we did. Vincent, like I said, he did all the drone work, all that was all him. So if you guys have any questions, we can answer them. I'm sure he can answer probably anything you have to want to know about drones, but overall, I appreciate all you guys coming out, and I think it was a wonderful day, and we plan on doing it again, hopefully next year.
It was wonderful, and I said that at the last meeting, it was wonderful. I would love to see us get something like this for all the schools in the county, because it was fabulous. I didn't see a single child misbehave. Everybody was engaged. It was such a good learning experience, so thank you very much.
And it was great to see from the high school perspective. You know, I had one student in particular that stood out that he had never been fishing before, and so I had shown him how to cast a fishing pole, and then by the end, he was helping the younger students fish, and I just thought that really stood out to me, that by the end of the day, he was kind of mentoring the younger students, and that just to kind of see them take on that role of just helping the younger ones, and they really did, I thought, interact well with just taking on that leadership role and kind of teaching the little ones and showing them around. So, and I know that might not work in every area, but I know we just kind of have a unique group, so we do appreciate your support, and it was nice to see you guys come out. And
It was nice to see some of the retired teachers that are substitutes that were out there working with them too. Definitely.
And we have something big planned in the spring, and hence you'll be getting so if there's any dates you can't come, let us know. We got scheduled around testing.
And awards days. Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments?
It was awesome, thank you.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is a board statement regarding prayer or invocation at the beginning of meetings. I just want, because there were questions at the last meeting about this, the board did not choose to do away with prayer or invocation at the beginning of the meetings. A community person informed a group called Freedom from Religion Foundation regarding us saying a prayer or invocation at meetings. I received a fax and a letter from the organization's lawyer, and I turned it over to our school board lawyer. This is a situation currently being handled between lawyers. In the meantime, we will have a moment of silence at the beginning of the meetings instead of a prayer or specific topic for a moment of silence. Next, are there any delegations? No delegations? Okay, number 6, superintendent's information.
Okay, just a few things to inform you about tonight. I want to say first off that October is National Principals Month, so we have some special things scheduled for our principals. We are also looking at sub-pay for our substitute teachers. We've been working on some different options for that, and we will have more information for you. That will have to go into a policy. Our PL Day is coming up at the end of October. We asked the elementary schools and the high schools some of the things that they would like us to focus on for them to help them with the professional learning for that day. Some of the things are centers or differentiated support, and we're also going to do some more training on social media. We'll also give the teachers and the principals time to work on goal setting. We're going to align our goals. I'm going to let Mr. Houston talk about that in a little bit, but we've got a system to align our goals across the entire county this year. We are still, as board office, looking into possibly finding some property as well. That's all.
Thank you. And next, number 7, superintendent's recommendation is for approval of minutes for the meeting on September 11th, 2023, and regular meeting on September 25th, 2023.
I move for approval.
It has been moved by Mr. Castelo. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It has been seconded by Mr. Price. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Under personnel matters, I need to make a change on one of these, and that is under resignation. We just need to scratch Samuel and Floyd for that. It's not resigning from that. Okay? So we have resignations, professional personnel, service personnel, and extracurricular. Do I have a motion for approval of the superintendent's recommendations as outlined under personnel matters?
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Glasscock. I'll second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, letter C. Ratification of superintendent's recommendation. Consideration and possible action on the superintendent's recommendation that a service employee's paid suspension be ratified by the board.
I move to go into executive session.
Yeah, move to go to executive session since it's a personnel issue. Do we have a second? Moved by Mr. Castelo, seconded by Mr. Price. All those in favor of going into an executive session, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. It's 6:41. We're going into executive session. We left executive session. It was motioned by Mrs. Farner and seconded by Mr. Price at 6:44. We're back in regular session at 6:46.
President Bonner, I recommend that you uphold the paid suspension of Jodella Ritchie.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Castelo. Do we have a second? I'll second it. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, okay. Motion carries. Okay. So then we're up to routine matters. Under routine matters, we have request to use school facilities, a lease agreement, which is just one that we continue year to year, a service agreement, chaperones and volunteers list, which is multiple pages. I want to make a comment, 2 comments on that one. My name is listed under New Martinsville Schools volunteers, and we can remove my name from there because I've already been approved as stood out in the rain while you approved it, as a chaperone or volunteer for the entire county. So my name doesn't need to be on there, so I don't have to recuse myself. It's on there. The other thing is just to verify, all of these people that are listed on here have been vetted, correct? Okay. Because we do now have a form that has to be filled out and licensed and put through the system. So, okay. Clear back past the names then. Motion for approval of superintendent's recommendations as outlined under routine matters.
So moved.
It's moved by Mr. Price. Is there a second? I'll second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Treasurer's report.
I'm asking for approval for 2 items tonight. One is item A, approval for payment of bills for the month of September, which you've received. And item B is transfers and increases in the budget. I do have a few supplements tonight asking for approval. I'll briefly go through those. Your first page, you will see IDEA school age. It is an $800,000 plus grant, the IDEA grant, but this is only the supplemental. We already budgeted some of those funds in the spring. This is the increase of $26,893 over the spring projection. That's the same thing for the IDEA school age, or I'm sorry, preschool grant. And then there's an IDEA special education teacher boot camp. It's for those non-certified teachers that are going into special ed. The state's having something for these teachers to help get them caught up a little bit on all the many requirements there. So there's $889.35 for stipends for them for attending that boot camp. The next page is the next year of the Child Nutrition Backpack Program. When you hear backpack program, it's not a backpack program, it is a
Food pantry.
food pantry.
Items can be sent home, or they can also be sent home for like weekends, long holidays, and each school is doing something different. I'm in contact with the schools, and they're working to develop their own program that best meets their students' needs.
Is that new this year?
No, it's not.
Okay, it's a continuing program.
Yes,
Continuing program, and this
through the governor's office.
This year's allocation is $22,939.69. The next page, you will see a PEIA supplemental increase, which I've been waiting for because if you remember, there's a lot we go over in the spring budget, but one of the things I mentioned is that, we know employee premiums went up. There was a pay raise that helped offset that for the employees a little bit. But the employer premium also went up, and ours was going up to the tune of about $800,000 is what it was going to cost us. And at that time, they had given no supplemental appropriation to help us with that $800,000. So we had to budget county money to cover that, knowing that there might be a special budget session a special session at the state level to supplement all these counties, and they did, to the tune of $554,200. So that's money we've already budgeted. We haven't budgeted that. We use county money, so that basically frees up $500,000 for the county because the state's going to kick in that amount that we've already budgeted. So that'll free up with some budget surplus there. And then there's an odd thing here that I've never seen in all my years here. State aid, MOE requirement, MOE is maintenance of effort. We have to do things, make sure we're spending the same amount on special ed every year, the same amount or more. We can't really cut that without a good reason. The state has the same requirement, and because of that, there were like 7 counties that received a little extra money because it has to do, without getting into the weeds, has to do with this ESSER funding that went to all the schools. There were 5 or 6, 7 counties that, and again, our amount is only $4,273. We're not going to do a lot with that, but I just budgeted it towards supplies. Basically, the state can't cut the state aid portion by, I've got the details on it and we're good. And then the next page is the early literacy grant that Mrs. Stanford takes care of for us, and it's $34,781. It's a state grant to help us with our early literacy. And finally, the Apostolic Christian Church gave us a donation of $2,000 because they heard about our Communities in Schools program. And so they gave us $2,000, and we're supplementing that Communities in Schools program with that. We're giving that allocation to those schools for additional $500 per the participating schools to help out with anything that they could use it for. So we're very appreciative of that. That's all that I'm asking for tonight.
Would it be out of line to present them with a certificate or a recognition at a board meeting, or is that?
Like a thank you?
Yeah.
I'm sure we can do that.
Is that a local?
I can't answer that. I'm not sure. Mr. Barkus could answer that question, and he's just not here tonight.
I'll ask him.
Yeah.
We have a,
I move for approval of the treasurer's report for the payment of bills and for the transfers and increases in the budget.
I'll second that.
any further question? It's been moved by Mr. Castello and seconded by Mr. Price. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The next thing is the second reading of the revised Wetzel County policies. This is the second reading. We approved the first reading at the last meeting. And this is on evaluation of service personnel. I move that we approve on second reading the evaluation of service personnel policy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Fawner, seconded by Mr. Price. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, board member committee reports? Anything from Malta? I think it's the only committee we have left. Okay, all right, then I'll turn it over to you about policy 2322
Okay.
with your staff members.
Mr. Doty, would you like to begin?
I have nothing new today.
Thank you. Mrs. Stanford?
I have given you guys a packet of iReady materials. I'm not gonna go over all of that, it would take me all evening, but it's there for you to look at. But the top page is what we sent to the state this year for our results of our first benchmark. And when you look at that, and you can just glance at it, it gives you the grade level, it gives you the assessment used, the amount of students tested, and how many requiring interventions. And when you look at that, you can see that the K through 3 is pretty good shape. But when we get to 4th grade, then it starts changing. The interventions are needed more heavily with the 4th through 8th grade.
4 through 8.
Yes. And we're looking at that data, just at several reasons. We talked about it today, several things could be going on, but we're kind of gonna dive a little deeper into that to see what's causing that. Then the next page, I just broke it down for the reading benchmark for countywide, and then I gave you the schools benchmark for when they're on grade level, 1 grade level below, or 2 grade levels below. And as a county in reading, we are 25% on or above grade level. And we're 41% 1 grade level below, and we're 34% 2 or more grade levels below. As for the schools, you can look at those individually, and I've given you also a breakdown of the schools which you can go to the grade levels and look at too. For math, is the next one, countywide math. On grade level, we're 16%. We're 52% one grade level below, and we're 31% two grade levels below. Our lowest domain is, it kind of blended out to be 3 really, they kind of tied. Geometry, algebra, and number and operations. So there wasn't any one specific one that stood out any more than the others. But again, after that you have the breakdown of all the schools, and then you have individual schools. You can break them down into the grade levels and see where each grade level sets. But the lower grades are definitely in better shape.
I have to say something, because, I mean, that's one of the things at one of our trainings is we're supposed to really make sure we look at data and that we discuss it and all. I'm glad to see that our lower grades are doing well, and we do have to, I'm glad that you're looking into seeing how testing changes and all for the upper grades. But some of these numbers are upsetting to see.
Yes, I agree with you, some of them are.
And another reason why, and everybody's having this problem in the whole country, but we need certified, qualified teachers, because I know so many of the teachers, I'm friends with some, and they are working hard. They are. This is not saying they're not working hard, and it's not just the family. It's just been a lot of different situational things, but we really have to address them. So, anybody else have any comments?
On the first page where it talks about students requiring intervention, et cetera, that's something that we've been doing all along over the years, correct?
Yes, it is.
It's not a new,
No, but with House Bill 3035, now the state's requesting that information from us. Well, we didn't used to even turn it into the state, but we do now.
we dealt with internally, but now
Right.
they want some numbers
Right.
to be seen and everything. And that'll be helped by the new aides in
First grade.
first grade, because we built second and third, that's
Maybe next
down the
few
road,
years.
okay.
I don't know that you prop it up as a crutch all the time, but I think there's some truth anyway to the fact that from fourth grade up are all the kids that had their lives turned upside down at crucial moments. So they're gonna be the hardest group to catch up.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
The
right.
younger the fourth grade have been relatively unaffected
right.
by it, and relationship to coming to school, and being able to come to school and those kinds of things. But there's work to be done, right?
Yes, there
To try to get those kids that lost that big chunk of time back to where they need to be.
And I also wonder too, for example, in the reading, when you do the testing, and I've been through many different rounds of different programs and helped write a lot of them, are you going from kindergarten through third grade in literacy that's pretty basic, just a sentence, a couple sentences, and when you hit fourth grade, are you starting to get a lot of informational text? Are you starting to get really long passages? And that could be a difference too.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Very
Thank you.
organized.
Mrs. Ammons? I have nothing. Okay. Mr. Houston, I think he's gonna elaborate on our plan going forward, which I think you will, we put a lot of work into this and we're just getting started, but.
Okay, so we're going to attack this problem head on, and it starts this Friday. And Ms. Stanford is correct. We were discussing at length today. When we looked at that same information you guys just had about with the already benchmark testing and seeing where those kids stand, just a drastic change when you get past the third grade. And there are no easy answers. I think there's multiple things that are coming ahead on that. But so let's fast forward to this Friday. Normally we have our principal meetings on Wednesdays, but we have 3 high schools that are going to receive awards in Charleston for pathways that they offer. That would be 100 High School, Magnolia, and Valley High School. I believe they're 45 high schools in the state are being recognized for that, and so we had 3 of those 45. So we moved our principal meeting to Friday this week. So Mrs. Porter and I had a very lengthy teams meeting with SRAB, and they're going to come in and help us with training our principals. And what our goal is to do. We want our principal leadership goals and their school goals to align with our county strategic plan. But on top of that, we want our teacher goals to align with their school goals, and that's not normally the case. They're kind of all over the place. We feel that Friday we'll do our normal informational items from the directors for about an hour, and then the remainder of the day, SRB is going to split up our principals into elementary groups, high school groups, and directors are going to be split among them. I'm going to be with high schools. Mrs. Porter is going to be with high schools. Of course, Mrs. Stanford is going to be with the elementary, and Mrs. Clothan is going to be with elementary, and so forth. And we're going to kind of work together to kind of guide them into looking at their school data and what forms of data that they can drive through their school to help increase academics and work towards where we need to be. Of course, this is not going to be an overnight thing. It's going to take time, but through this, we want them to be able to come up with different forms of data that we're going to, as district leaders, meet with them on a regular basis to make sure that these things are occurring within their schools, to be able to actually, SRB likes to use this term as scoreboards, so data walls, but short-term scoreboards they can have in their schools so teachers can see that we're making progress, we as leaders can see that they're making progress. All this information and data will relate to their school goals, their principal goals, and we want the teachers' goals to help drive the school goals, to be able to help provide that data for the administrators. And working through this progress, if we everything aligned on the teacher level, the school level, hopefully we can get things moving towards to our district goals. And it starts Friday. I can also tell you that Mrs. Stanford and I, Mrs. Porter, we went and visited all our elementary schools, and we wanted the principals to show us data, and be able to talk to us about the data that they're using in their schools. We plan on coming back probably midterm to meet with them again. High schools we haven't met with, and there's a reason for it. They took their PSAT tests last Wednesday, so they didn't have any data really for us to truly discuss. And they're also working on makeups this week. And when we get that data in place, then we'll be able to have those data meetings with them. Also, I really think Friday will help with high schools to give them a little better idea of what kinds of sources of data they will have within their buildings that will be important. So
You came up with a spreadsheet, Mr. Kimball shared a spreadsheet, and you kind of.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, I can tell you, like one form of data even before that, with the elementaries, I created a spreadsheet, for instance, from the elementary level, that will document where kids stand on their iReady. Where actually I'm making the principals actually input it by hand, because I feel it's important that they have to manipulate that data and actually be able to have really good visuals. Another side data point for the elementaries is this is something a new initiative that we're implementing starting the second 9 weeks, and it will be 9 weeks math tests. And basically what it is we had created pacing guides. We've had them in place for multiple years. And so first 9 weeks, you have a series of standards that if you're following the pacing guides, you're going to hit X, Y, and Z. Second 9 weeks, you're going to hit the next set of standards. Okay? So it's progression. Hopefully, if it's done correctly, you're to ensure that your kids are going to see all those standards. Okay? Now, the 9 weeks tests, they're not 40, 50 question tests. 10 questions at the most. Okay? And that will be in grades 3 through 8. Okay? The expectation is that there will be a pre and a post test. So at the beginning of the 9 weeks, we will have a pre-test on those standards that will be covered. Yes, I know they haven't experienced those standards, but it gives us an idea of where the kids stand already. Because there may be some standards that they're already solid on, because a lot of the standards spiral. Okay? And it also will tell us glaring weaknesses. We want teachers to actually break down those tests and take notes of who mastered question number 1, who mastered question number 2, just to get an idea of where kids are. So, well, I want the principals to be able to articulate that information as well. Then we come back at the end of that 9 weeks and we give them that post exam. Now we'll see what they learned. And then we'll be able to build remediation groups from that. That's part of the spreadsheet. Well, so you know, whatever the kids score on that for the pre-test, what they score on the post-test, we'll be able to track the growth. That's an elementary. High school's a little bit different. It's going to be based on PSAT numbers. Now, Page City High School is a little different because they have 7th and 8th grade in that. So they're responsible for their iReady numbers as well, plus the 9 weeks test.
It reminds me of decades ago when we gave critical skills tests. It sounds
Yes.
like what you're saying now.
Yes.
Those of us have been around for a while.
Now the 9 weeks tests aren't, and for the math, they're created by our math coach. So the teachers aren't required to delve and dig and make that as an extra piece. All they're going to have to do is just look at and analyze their kids, which a good teacher is going to do anyway. Now, eventually we're going to be able to do the same thing with reading language arts. And we have the ability to do that with science as well. Now, we just haven't implemented it this year because I think math is good enough. And we don't want to unleash on a lot of people. There's a reason we're able to do the 9 weeks test is on the state level, they've created what's called a test authoring tool. And it is on the same platform as our state assessment. So the questions that the kids are going to see are questions that could have been on an old state test that's been retired. They're pulled from the test bank that could be on a future test. So when they're doing those 9 weeks tests, it is on the computer. Okay, but we're going to ask the students to work out the questions or the problems on a piece of paper. So work it out so that will be gathered. Now, the reason we want them to take it on the computer is because that's the way their state test is taken. It gives them an opportunity to work on the standards, see the questions in a format that they would possibly see on the state test, and be able to use the tools that are offered to them on the state test. So I think it's a win-win. Okay, and we'll be able to have the ability to do same thing for reading language arts, and we can do that for science as well. Okay, so those are some things that we're working on.
And none of this is new or rocket science, but we're all going to be on the same page. We're all going to use the same type of spreadsheet. We're all going to work together to help figure out what each school needs by kind of giving them some more tools instead of just saying, okay, we expect this, we're going to actually help them gather
Well, if you
this
just look at
information.
numbers, you don't see what the weaknesses are. Right. So I understand that. I still hope that somehow we look back on what teachers are having to do and can take some things off their plate. And I understand giving this. I'm supportive of it.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that. I just
Well, that's why we're
we've
trying
got to look
to
and see what we can get off their plate.
give
because
them
it's-
as much of it as possible, but still letting them. We're going to try to utilize those 3 25-minute time periods in the morning for PLC. It's hard to chunk that tiny little bit of time, you know, because we just have those little mini segments, but we're gonna try to help them organize so they can make best use of that time. Because we definitely don't wanna give them more, but we definitely need to figure out what's the kids need.
I think work smarter. Yeah, work smarter. And I think the other piece is, I'm sorry, I'm getting winded. Sometimes I get winded.
That's okay.
This is accountability and feedback. If we're looking at it and we're providing quality feedback to the principals, we expect the principals to be looking at their PLC notes and that information and providing quality feedback to their teachers. And if the teachers are getting that quality feedback, we're hoping that the teachers are providing quality feedback to their students. Because if the students feel it's important to the teacher, and the teacher feels it's important, you know, down that line, I think we're going to get a little more bang for our buck. You know, because I think it just comes back to accountability. I know I had those teachers back when I was in school that I respected the world out of it because they took the attention and they took the time to give me quality feedback. I may not always wanted to hear it, but I knew they cared and it was important. You know, so, I mean, that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you, Mr. Houston.
You're welcome.
Mrs. McLaughlin, special ed?
Well, I just have a little bit to bounce off with what Mrs. Stanford and Mr. Houston was saying about the whole special education world of it. So when we look at the data collection, when we look at the critical skills, and when we have those kids that don't make the cut scores, and when we have to just really hone in on our interventions, that might involve SAT. And there's your special education world that then comes into play. And so we're really gonna work closely with Mrs. Stanford and Mr. Houston so that the special education department can support that part of the process. And also one of the things that can sometimes, if, you know, when we have those kids on IEPs or 504s, we also have to look at compliance and making sure that we're doing things following the rules. So one of the things that we are going to start doing beginning in November for special education, and not just for House Bill 3035, but also just for to support our teachers with compliance and when they have questions and answers. We're gonna do a monthly PLC for our special education department. We're gonna do that virtually. We also have Sarah Benson in the department, who is a wonderful help with making little snippets of videos for just you know, if they don't know how to fill out a certain form. We have a lot of new teachers and those who are just getting certified, so we'll have a Teams page set up with those little training videos. And our PLCs will also be recorded, so if the teachers can't be there for a duty or whatever, they'll still have accessibility to those little training videos. And then to switch hats, in the nurses world, all of our Stop the Bleed kits have been delivered to high schools and elementary schools, and our nurses are organizing training. So the high schools have been trained, but our elementaries are still needing trained, and with the limited amount of time that we have for PO days, the nurses are making sure that their home schools are gonna be trained.
I know that we only approved this impact contract this evening, impact testing for the students, athletes and everything. Has that been undertaken yet this year?
That is not the nurses. That is actually, the impact testing is going to be through the hospital. They come in and do a baseline test for our athletes, and then they'll come back and do that again. We haven't gotten started
Okay,
yet.
I thought, we used to do it, I'm sorry, I
No, it's
apologize.
okay.
We used to do it through the nurses a long time ago, so I wasn't sure. That clarifies that, thank you.
Sure. Thank you. CT, Mr. Kimball?
Last week we received our career technical education efficiency indicators for the school year 22-23, which was last year. And a minimum of 75 points are required to obtain a meets requirement designation, and we as a county received 95 out of the 100. With the only 5 points we did not get were because of endorsements. We had 6 teachers that were, I'm not gonna say wrongly endorsed. It may have been that we had a teacher that took the test to be the teacher in that class, but had issues getting it on his actual certificate. Or we had a couple art teachers that were teaching a graphic design class, which you would think that they would be certified, but they didn't have a special code. So, kind of little things here and there that may not have been our fault, but we'll try to do better. And some of the things that went into that was participation by the students, completion, which means if they're a completer, work-based learning, which was new last year, performance, and like I said, the endorsements for the teachers. But I was very pleased with the outcome of that because it was something, this is brand new, and this is kind of what I stepped into, like the first 2 weeks on the job was making sure all this data was submitted in time to get that in there. So kudos to Mrs. McPherson and Mr. Houston last year for going through there, but I think we're off to a strong start, and we're already trying to address those endorsement issues already, as well as keeping up the other factors, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kimball. Mr. McPherson?
Not too much. I mean, the search continues. There's some bright spots. As you may have noticed, we hired a slew of substitute aides. I've been testing like crazy. It's gotten better. I invited 70 people over 2 days to come take tests. And about 28 or 29 of them showed up, and most of them passed. So I will take low attendance if most people pass. I think I've tested everybody who applied through mid-September that responded to the letter, and we'll continue to do so that next year, whenever we hire second grade aides, we don't find ourselves in such a mess. We do have people bidding on jobs who require. We've got at least 1 or 2 jobs where everyone who bid is from outside of the system and needs to test, which is pretty unheard of if I understand correctly. But that's the situation we are in at this point in time. But there are some bright spots on there. I told our principal this morning if we could run our own background check system in our own university, I think we could get things done a little faster. But we're stuck waiting on the state police and different various universities. So, but some good news there. We're getting some headway with aides.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Lancaster?
I could talk briefly about the certified list, just quickly. It is something that is an annual report that's due. All your employees in the system, it's the second month enrollment basically of your staff, professional and service. It's a joint operation. It goes on for a couple months. I submitted it this morning, the final. It goes on for a couple months. It's a joint operation with Mr. McPherson's office, Joanna Felez, and my office with payroll, so Debbie Talkington. And Ben's first time going through that side of it, and my 22nd time, and I will tell you honestly, it's never easy, but this year was by far the hardest. And if what you're doing, there's a really neat setup that you didn't used to have years ago, where you put in your staff in the system and you submit it electronically, and it compares it with the Office of Certification and Records down in Charleston. So if you've got somebody in a spot that they're not certified for, they'll say, hey, that's an error. You can't, this is what your funding's based on. So you don't have the right person in that position. And I started to say, dude, I'm just going to say it, dude, we're trying. But it's tough when we used to have 200 applicants for positions, and that might be an exaggeration. It might not be. What did we get? What did Mr. Yeager say back in the day? You'd have 40, 50, 60, 70 applications for a single job, and now we're hiring the people that we can get. And the certified list this year reflected that, because we have to not only do our existing staff, we have to do existing positions. So if we have a position that's vacant or is being filled by a substitute, which we have several, that took a whole afternoon.
Yes, it did.
Entering those positions in. And so, not to knock, we're thankful for everybody we get, but when you look at your test scores there, I mean, I'm sure that has something to do with it, is that we're trying our best to get certified people teaching subjects that they're well versed in. And it's tough, and the certified list reflected that this year. So we're not out of the woods yet. We submitted the final, but I'm sure we're going to get some questions that you and I are going to have to sit down with and try and explain, and hopefully get get funding for it. That's just what I wanted to pass on.
Thank you.
Support. I forgot something. Our bus maintenance facility went out for bid on October 3rd. We actually had, 12? I think 12 contractors show up. It was a pretty good turnout. I was rather surprised. We will have a bid opening meeting the 23rd.
Same day as the board
The
meeting.
board meeting, it'll be that morning. We'll have a bid opening meeting, so, but yeah, I forgot that earlier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sally? Okay, do any of you have anything else under other? I have one thing that ties really in with step number 12, and that's the date and time of next meeting. We moved last year to the 6:30 time slot because one board member worked and could not get here until then. He's no longer on the board. I would like to see, and I talked with Mrs. Porter, she would too, like to see our meetings moved back earlier. We have a lot of people here, some on the board, that have a lot of activities with their children in the evenings. And I think if we moved it earlier, that possibly that would help that they could attend the meetings and still do their family things that are needed. So I would recommend that we move the time back earlier. I checked with Mrs. Nice because as far as I knew, she was the only one of us that, worked a daytime job that had direct hours and everything. And, I said, since I knew she couldn't make it, and she said she could be here by 5 for meetings. So just throwing that out there. The other thing is that would make it, I would think, now you can correct me, I would think that some of you would like that better because you wouldn't have that big gap in between when you left and had to come back. But we want to look at the time. And also, it used to be years ago that the board meetings were on Tuesday nights, and Mrs. Porter had mentioned to me that she would appreciate if they were moved to Tuesdays instead of Mondays, because Mondays you just get back in with everybody, you're doing it all, and you have to have a meeting that night, and that Tuesdays would work better for her. So I'm gonna throw that out there, and let's have some discussion, what people think.
Are we deciding tonight?
If we all agree that would work out great, I mean,
Yeah, I think we need to, because we need to set some meetings as well.
Well, it's right, because we don't have, November, December, we voted already just to have one meeting each time, unless we need a special meeting called. And we don't have those dates picked, so, we only have one more meeting before that happens. So we really need to decide what we think.
I've got no problem with either one of those changes.
Okay.
I can
don't
be here
either.
at
I'm
6
fine
and I
with
can
it.
be here on Tuesdays as easy as I can be here on Mondays, so
Thank you.
whatever works for the board is fine with me.
Everything's fine with me. I mean, I'm like Mrs. Nice, I could be here at 5. I mean, if it's a 2-hour meeting, 5 to 7, you still can get out to your, I don't have little kids anymore, but the rest of you that do could still get to your activities with them.
I
Thoughts?
have no problem with it, other than the fact that it's 5 o'clock a bit early for,
Did you
if the
mean
teacher.
6 or did you mean 5?
Well, she said 5 to me, and I know she would like 5, but yes, but you want 6?
I think 5's maybe a bit of a stretch for,
Okay.
community members.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's-
Can we compromise at 5:30? It's a long day for all of us that are working as well, and then that gap. And then some of us are gonna have to miss because we do have children that have activities. Just trying to balance it out.
So 5:30 on Tuesdays you'd like? Would that work with you?
I don't think we can go any earlier than 5:30.
Okay.
In community participation.
5:30 or 6 is fine with me. I just like to move back from that 6:30. That's how it was for a long time. So,
Well, I know we did 6:30 when I first came on the board, and then we moved to 6, which seemed to still be okay. I'll just be honest, I have some concerns much earlier than 6 o'clock from a community standpoint. But keep in mind, I started this and there weren't cameras in the room when I was first on the board. So it's a different environment. But so people actually had to physically come.
they had to come, right? They couldn't watch it.
And but
What's our participation rate of watching?
I haven't looked at that in a few months, as you might imagine, but I can look.
There, I've gathered from people on the street, there's
There's a lot.
a time.
it's relevant
Yeah.
to what's
subject
So,
matter.
all right, so we're okay to move to Tuesday, let's say that.
That's
We're okay to
fine.
move to Tuesday,
I can live with that.
okay. So Tuesday, and you think 6 would be good?
I'm just saying, I think any early, and I get it, I understand all these folks are here all day, but I think our meetings are still in the public, before the public, and I feel like 5:30 would be a challenge for, especially when you consider if you were from 100 and you were trying to get here for whatever reason, 5:30 would be quite a chore. And I don't want to discourage people from wanting to come.
What did Mrs. Nice say when you asked her, because she has little children?
She said she could be here as early as 5, anytime. She was for moving back the time, and she could be here as early as 5. is
So
what
she
said.
wouldn't, so she could not miss those activities.
Yeah, because it's in the
Mrs.
activities.
Simmons just showed me that
839 were, it varies depending on what's going on,
Oh,
what's
then
on
what's-
the agenda, as to why, anywhere from 839 to 385.
And you can pull up the stats as to how many people, Mr. Price knows this because we've had that discussion before, how many people were watching at any given moment, and you can usually correlate that to the agenda items.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so we're gonna do it on Tuesdays. Yes,
I can live with that.
okay, that helps you. Okay. Tuesdays, you want 6 o'clock?
I'm fine with
You want
6.
6 o'clock?
I just don't
6
think I can
o'clock
go
would be
earlier
fine.
than that
Okay.
right now.
Tuesdays at
It-
6 o'clock.
It's
That's fine.
changeable again at some other point if we need to change
If something happens.
it.
Okay, so for the last agenda meeting thing then, are we going to switch that for next week, or for our next meeting?
we
I
can.
think we
So
can.
that would be then
October
instead of October 24th, thank you, at 6 PM. Do we want to pick the dates now for the next 2 meetings, November and December?
We probably should.
Yeah, I think so. Second full Tuesday or second Tuesday?
So that'd be the 14th,
14th of November?
because the next week is our break week,
Yeah.
so November 14th.
And then, in December, is it like the 12th? 24th? Oh, there's a little bit of humor.
14th of November and 12th of
12th
December
of December?
would be the 2 meetings in
Yes.
November rather than,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Also, I was going to start, having our meetings once a month at a school. So once a month here, and once a month we'll pick the schools. We've already kind of done a couple of these Riverside. So we were talking about maybe while the weather's still nice, starting out,
That's
and
how
then
we
moving our
usually
way
do it.
back in.
Right.
So, do you wanna begin this at the next meeting? So if, that would be October 24th, do you want to start that and just have that at 100 High School? Or do you wanna
Didn't we
give
go to the
them,
high schools last year?
do you wanna do all 8 schools? We kinda,
So we've
Oh, I
done,
thought we were just doing the attendance area,
Oh.
one from each attendance area.
well, we've
I
done
misunderstood, that's okay.
Magnolia, we did, New Martinsville, when I got hired.
Oh, that's right.
So that would leave 6 more schools, we could spread them out.
But it would be best to do the further ones out before the weather times, the bad weather comes in.
I got trouble bad reading no matter what.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't care.
so do you
But
wanna
you
start,
got that big truck that you can do.
you wanna start
don't
this in
care about how
October
bad it
or
is, I can
November?
show
I
up.
say start it now, just so we can
Okay.
get to them.
So the next one will be October 24th at 100 High School, if that's good for, they
It-
left.
Check with
As long
Mrs.
as there's,
Sigley.
because that's on a Tuesday and that's basketball game night. When does basketball season
They
start?
wouldn't have started
No, they don't
basketball
start.
yet.
That's October, never mind, scratch that, okay.
But going
Volleyball.
forward, other schools would need to consider that.
Could be volleyball.
We were in high school last year.
That's
They wanna
what I
go to
thought.
all schools.
Oh, okay.
We are gonna go to all,
Okay.
okay. So that'll be most months. It'll be very much, few months
Every
that we're
month you'll
here.
go to one school, at least one school. Once a month,
Oh, just once a month?
just once a month.
Okay,
But on the 2 months that you have only one meeting, that means that meeting will be held
okay.
at a school.
If you still wanna do that,
No, I think,
I think.
Mr. Glasgow
yeah.
brought it up, and I think
Yep.
that is good. People need to see us out in the air.
Okay.
Just,
If it
You're just
doesn't work,
talking about regular sessions.
Regular meetings, this is an LSSC, we're not doing that, nobody's identified
Okay.
CSI at this point.
And we can make it clear to the schools that it's not.
It's just a board meeting.
It's
It's
just a board meeting,
meeting.
no,
It's-
no,
no fancy schmancy.
you don't have to
No. No
roll
extra
out
work
the red
put in
carpet or
principal.
anything.
Using their facility.
And it's
Right.
just one board meeting per school. So, once, once they do it, then if we'll do 100, then they'll be good for the next year.
I think that's good.
Right.
Okay, so we'll see everybody then again Tuesday, October 24th at 6 PM at 100 High School.
Yep.
Correct?
I reserve a seat, Mrs. Simmons,
Do I?
I reserve a seat in your truck.
Oh, yeah. I'll try that tonight.
I vote for adjournment.
Thank you. Mr. Price's motion for adjournment, do we have a second? I'll second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.